Morning, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Real Life Fishing. And we've got coffee this morning since it's 9:30 in the morning or something. But what I want to talk about today, since it's winter time and we're doing the bait making thing in the winter because I don't like ice fishing, so too cold for me. But what I want to talk to you guys about in this episode was how to make a crosscut sled for your table saw and why those are important or useful, I guess. So if you're making baits and they're made out of wood and you've got a table saw and you don't have a crosscut sled, stay tuned and see why you should get one. All right, so let's talk about how to construct one of these, right? So I made this out of melanite just because it's flat, it's dimensionally stable, and it's very slick, right? So flat and dimensionally stable are your two important things. So you could use plywood. If you can get flat plywood, I can't. Local big box store, all the plywood is just shitty. Can use MDF, right? Very flat, very dimensionally stable. I just don't like MDF. I don't like the dust from it. It's irritating, so I try and stay away from that. So melanite it was, but works great. So the first thing you want to do then is cut your piece of melanite to the size of the sled that you want to build, right? And then on the table here, we've got these tracks for the miter, right? So these are what we want to use to ride the sled in. So on the bottom side of the sled, we've got these two runners, right? So I made those two runners out of ply. They're same width as the track here, and when they're in there all by themselves, when you just first cut them, you just run your hand across, they're fine, right? So I did that, and I just knocked them down to width using the table saw, running them through, kind of snuck up on it, and then stood them up on end and ran them through the bandsaw to get them the exact thickness that I needed, which was just a shade under how thick that plywood was stock, right? So once I did that, then I just put some washers in these tracks to make those runners stand proud just a little bit, and then put the runners back down on top of that, and then ran a bead of CA across it, and then I dropped my bed down on top of that so that it was pretty square. You know, you can move it a little bit at first, right? But dropped it down till when I thought I had it pretty square, right? So this slot was not cut in here yet, okay? And so then gave it a good push for a minute and then stood it up, flipped it over, and then I ran 4 screws through the ply, right? So I've got the ply is just under 1/2 inch thick, and then it's 1/2 inch melanite. So I use 3/4 inch wood screws. Make sure to countersink those. You don't want those heads standing proud. They'll scratch up your runners in here, right? So make sure to countersink those and get those in there good. And then once you've got your tracks on, right, now the board slides back and forth pretty easily. So if you're going to make an outfeed table, you'll want to make sure that you cut runner slots or extensions for the miter slots into that table so that you can slide the sled up onto the table. Otherwise, you're going to catch the edge of that table and it's not going to work out so well, right? So once you got that on there, then screw on a piece of 2x4 across the front, and then you're going to want to make a cut almost to where your fence is going to be, but not quite, right? So pull the sled back like this, fire up your saw, cut through that front 2x4, and then make your cut down the center of the board. And then, like I said, stop before you get to where the fence is going to be, right? And then what you want to do is you want to put one screw in one end of the fence, right? So that the fence pivots like this, okay? But so then what you want to do is you want to take your combination square and you want to raise your blade and then run that blade not quite to the edge of that cut, but then take your combination square and put it against the side of the blade. Make sure you're not sitting on any teeth, right? And then run that down till you hit your fence. And you want to make sure then that your fence is square, right? So it's going to pivot like this, remember, because we only put a screw in one corner. So get that pivoted correctly how you need it to make that make that 90-degree cut, and then double check it on the other side that you're nice and square there. And then go ahead and run one screw into the corner over here. I suggest that you clamp this, after you get that square. Just put a clamp on there and run one screw into the other corner, and then stand it up and a couple of more screws. And then you can fire up the saw. Make sure that either your fence is tall enough that you're not gonna cut through it with the blade, or be careful that you don't raise the blade enough to cut through the top of the track here, right? So very important. But so you've got the blade raised a little now, and then you just run it right through, right? And that's how you get your cut in the fence, so that you can just put your workpiece on and run it right through like that, right? So let's see what that looks like. So we'll just take a small piece off of this 2x4 here. There you go. There you go, that's what you've got. So if you wanted to make repeated cuts like that, just keep running it forward, take the block off, slide the board over, run it again. Very easy. You'll get nice square 90s every time. Yep. So that's all there is to making one of these. And trust me, once you have one, life will get a lot better. Things will become easier and faster in the shop. There's all kinds of videos out there about all the neat things you can do with a sled once you've built one. You can use them to make repeatable angle cuts. If you watch some other videos from some other bait makers, you'll see that they'll cut their lips on the table saw. And they do that using angled jigs that they'll have sit up here near the blade, and then they'll hold their workpiece on and run it like this to make the cut that they need. I cut my lips actually on a dual bevel miter saw, but we'll save that for another episode. So, like I said, very easy to make one of these. A lot safer to make cross cuts than it is trying to use the fence, which you should never do. And also easier than trying to use the miter if you're working with a long piece of wood. And much, much easier for making repeated cuts if you're just trying to knock down a piece of material to, a whole bunch of the same size, like when I'm knocking down, longer boards into sections to make baits with, right? They're all the same length, so very quickly just run it across here. Life is good, safe, easy, fast. Hope you guys liked this video. Hope you learned something. If that's the case, then my goal with every video is to get 1 new subscriber per video. So down there in the corner, you should see a picture of my truck with a crooked ass trailer behind it. Go ahead and click on that if you want to subscribe. And if you liked it, please do me a favor, give me a thumbs up right down there. And thanks, and we'll see you next time.